Did you know that the man who eventually became a literal god once had to struggle just to pay his rent? Can you even imagine a Hollywood landscape without the iconic hammer-wielding Chris Hemsworth? It's hard to believe now, but there was a time when he was just another face in the crowd, hoping for a break that felt like it might never come. Before the lightning, the thunder, and the global superstardom, Chris was just a young guy from Australia with a dream that seemed almost too big for his reality. He wasn't born into Hollywood royalty. He had to fight for every single inch of ground he gained. His story actually starts in the rugged, beautiful landscapes of Australia. While most of us know him as the mighty Thor, he actually got his big start on the set of the famous Australian soap opera, Home and Away, for years. He played the character Kim Hyde, becoming a local heartthrob. But here's the thing about Australian soaps. While they are a fantastic training ground, they can also be a bit of a golden cage. Was he always destined for greatness, or was he just another handsome face in the outback? Chris didn't want to just be comfortable. He wanted to push himself to the absolute limit. He had this deep, burning desire to provide for his family, specifically to help his parents pay off their house. That noble drive is what eventually pushed him to take one of the biggest risks of his life. He knew that staying in his comfort zone wouldn't get him where he wanted to be. Can you imagine the guts it takes to leave a stable, successful TV career in your home country to move across the world and face the infamous Hollywood meat grinder? Los Angeles is a city that eats dreams for breakfast, and Chris was walking right into its jaws. He traded the sunny beaches of Australia for the high-pressure audition rooms of LA, Europe, where thousands of men who looked just like him were all fighting for the same 30 seconds of a casting director's time. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. It was a massive gamble, one that could have easily ended in total embarrassment and failure. The reality of Hollywood hit him hard and fast. Believe it or not, the man who now commands millions per film was once shockingly close to running out of money. The financial struggle was very real. He's admitted in interviews that the pressure of wanting to succeed for his family actually started to get in his own way. He was so desperate to land a role that he was overthinking every move, every line, and every look. He almost reached a breaking point where he was ready to pack his bags, give up on the American dream, and head back home with his tail between his legs. He was nearly broke, sitting in his small apartment, wondering if he'd ever make good on his promise to his mother and father. Every no felt like a punch to the gut. And let's talk about those early rejections, because they were brutal. He was constantly hitting a wall, hearing no after no from Hollywood's elite. But even in the midst of all those rejections, a tiny spark was ignited when he landed a small but pivotal role in J.J. Abrams' 2009 Star Trek. He played George Kirk, and even though he was only on screen for a few minutes, he managed to steal the entire opening of the movie. It was a heart-wrenching performance that proved he could handle high-stakes drama. Suddenly people were asking, who is that guy with the incredible screen presence? That tiny role was the summary of his incredible rise. But what exactly is that it factor? Is it just the massive muscles and the chiseled jawline? Rumors say there's something much deeper there. It's that rare combination of vulnerability, humor, and raw power. He isn't just a muscle man, he's a guy who can make you laugh while he's saving the universe. But wait, because the drama behind his most famous role is even more intense than you think. You won't believe who he had to beat to get the hammer. It was a family affair that almost changed the course of the Marvel Cinematic Universe history forever. Stay tuned, because the battle for the throne was much closer to home than anyone expected. Imagine the Sunday dinner at the Hemsworth house after Chris found out his younger brother, Liam, was actually a finalist for Thor while he had been passed over. Talk about awkward, right? Liam was remarkably close to landing the role first. The competition was incredibly fierce. Chris had bombed his first audition because he was too focused on being serious and godlike, which backfired completely. It wasn't until his manager pushed for a second chance that the magic happened. He recorded a new audition tape in a Vancouver hotel room while filming another movie, with his supportive mom reading the lines of Odin. Talk about a family effort. That second tape showed the raw, effortless charisma and the slight hint of a bad boy edge the casting directors were looking for. He convinced Marvel that he was the only one who could carry the hammer. Once he got the part, the real work began. And we aren't just talking about memorizing lines or practicing an English accent. Let's dive into the gossip everyone wants to know about. The insane physical transformation. Have you seen those arms? To go from a relatively slim soap opera star to the iconic Norse god, Chris had to undergo a metamorphosis that seemed almost superhuman. We're talking about an intake of 6,000 calories a day. He was basically surviving on a strict diet of chicken, steak, fish, and brown rice, eating every few hours until he felt like he might explode. The Hemsworth bulk became a global phenomenon, leading many to wonder if such a physique is even possible naturally, while rumors always swirl in Hollywood about shortcuts. And Chris's trainers swear it's all down to brutal, old-school lifting and a discipline that most mortals couldn't dream of maintaining. He didn't just want to look like Thor, he wanted to move like him, which meant hours of intense functional training, Muay Thai, and agility work that left him completely drained. But life in the Marvel Cinematic Universe wasn't all just lifting heavy things and flying around on wires. There was some major high-stakes drama behind the scenes, especially when it came to the intense contract negotiations for the Avengers films. Rumors suggest that as the franchise exploded, the cast, including heavy hitters like Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson, had to stand together as a family to ensure they were being compensated fairly. Beyond the money, Chris was actually becoming a bit bored with Thor. He felt the character was getting too stiff and Shakespearean. It wasn't until he collaborated with Taika Waititi for Ragnarok that he finally got to inject his own goofy, hilarious personality into the role. And speaking of personality, is he actually as nice as he seems? His co-stars certainly think so. Robert Downey Jr. once joked that Chris is too handsome and too nice to be real. And Scarlett Johansson has praised him for being the ultimate team player who never let the fame go to his head. He became the heart of the set, the guy who kept everyone laughing during those grueling 18-hour shoots. Despite the massive success of the MCU, Chris was terrified of being typecast as just a guy with a hammer. He took a massive swing with the movie Rush, playing Formula One legend James Hunt. It was a risky move because it required him to lose a lot of that Thor muscle and show some real dramatic range. Did the fans follow him? Absolutely. He proved he wasn't just a set of abs. Then came Extraction on Netflix, which cemented him as a solo action powerhouse, capable of carrying a massive franchise on his own shoulders. Meanwhile, the legendary Chris Hemsworth was crowned sexiest man alive, a title he handled with his signature self-deprecating humor. He even joked with reporters that the title gave him a free pass from doing chores at home, though we doubt his wife, Elsa Pataky, agreed with that. As he reached the absolute peak of Hollywood's A-list, something happened that no one saw coming. While filming a documentary series about longevity, the man who seemed invincible discovered a human vulnerability that changed his entire perspective on the future. We need to talk about the terrifying news that sent shockwaves through the industry and made the world hold its breath for the God of Thunder. While filming the National Geographic series Limitless, which was originally supposed to be about pushing the human body to its physiological extremes, the God of Thunder faced a reality check that no amount of heavy lifting could ever fix. During a blood test designed to map his genetic future, doctors discovered that Chris carries 2 copies of the APOE4 gene. For those of us who aren't scientists, that means he's significantly more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease later in life. Can you imagine the absolute shock? One minute you're diving into Arctic waters for a stunt, and the next, you're staring down a biological roadmap that exposes your own mortality. The internet absolutely exploded when that episode aired. Fans were heartbroken, and the news sparked a massive global conversation about brain health and genetics. It was a rare, incredibly raw moment of humanity from a man whose entire brand is built on being an indestructible specimen. But how did Chris handle it? Instead of crumbling, he used it as a wake-up call to start living even more intentionally and focusing on his long-term health. Of course, as soon as the word Alzheimer's hit the tabloids, the Hollywood rumor mill went into a total frenzy. Suddenly, every headline was screaming that Chris Hemsworth was retiring for good. People were panicking, asking, is this the end of Thor? Or is he quitting Hollywood at the height of his fame? The noise got so loud that Chris actually had to clarify his position. He wasn't retiring, he was simply choosing to take a break to be with his family. You can't blame him, right? After a decade of back-to-back blockbusters, he realized that the most precious thing he owns isn't a box office trophy, but time. He decided to step away from the high-pressure meat grinder of Los Angeles to focus on what actually matters. This brings us to his famous move back to Byron Bay, Australia. While most A-listers are fighting for mansions in the Hollywood Hills, Chris packed it all up and took his wife Elsa Pataki and their 3 kids back to the coast of New South Wales. Why? Because he wanted his children to have a normal childhood, far away from the paparazzi and the artificial circus of the film industry. In Byron Bay, he isn't a billionaire Avenger. He's just a regular dad who goes surfing and grabs coffee with his neighbors. It was a power move that proved he values his family's peace over his industry status. And honestly, that down-to-earth energy is exactly why we love his social media presence. Have you seen his Instagram? He's the undisputed king of being relatable. Whether he's posting hilarious videos of himself failing at a workout while his kids climb all over him, or making fun of his own persona, he knows how to keep his millions of fans engaged. But even with all that love, there's always a bit of Hemsworth fatigue. Some critics argue we've seen too much of him, while others are still obsessed. It's a delicate balance, but Chris navigates it with a signature Aussie smile. So, what does the future hold? He recently shocked everyone by playing the chaotic villain Dementus in the Mad Max prequel, Furiosa. It was a complete departure from his heroic roles, showing a theatrical side of his acting range. Rumors about a potential Thor 5 are still swirling, but Chris has made it clear that if he returns, it has to be something different. He's looking toward prestige acting now, wanting to prove he's more than just a guy in a cape. Is he the last of the true movie stars? In an era of CGI and franchises, he might just be one of the few who can still draw a massive crowd based on his name alone. What do you think is his most iconic movie? And where do you want to see him go next? Drama or more action? Tell us